Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Practice Forward podcast. I'm your host, Owen, and today we're joined by Rahul Shah. Rahul is the principal of Tightness, a New Jersey firm designing homes that marry precision with environmental responsibility. A certified passive house consultant, Rahul treats airtightness and energy logic as design fundamentals, not extras. His work, like Kinstead and Deer Trot, challenges the idea that performance and beauty are intention. We talk about leading with rigor, designing for long-term relevance, and what it means to build with purpose in every detail. Hi, Rahul. Good to see you today.
Good morning, Owen.
Thanks for joining us. Really interested to get into learning about this tight house phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
Just before we begin, the Practice Forward podcast is sponsored by Scantaplan. Scantaplan is how visionaries start with certainty. We deliver architectural grade as-built 3D models and spatial data that meet the highest standards of precision, because design decisions deserve better inputs. Whether you're adapting a historic structure, coordinating across disciplines, or racing a deadline, Scantaplan shows up with tailored deliverables, industry-leading tolerances, and high-touch service that scales. This isn't just scanning. It's a collaboration at the speed of trust. Scantaplan, the measure of excellence. So, Rahul, tell me, what is a tight house?
Yeah, well, Tighthouse is, the name of my practice, but, as you mentioned, I am a certified passive house consultant. Airtightness is a major component in every passive house, and arguably one of the most important in any kind of sustainable building, just for building comfort. But, it's a tight house. It's something that is exciting. It's a place that people can enjoy themselves and really come together. It's a place that your life is congealed in this place. And I specialize in single family residential, additions, renovations, new construction, and it's really just about bringing not only people together, but kind of a distillation of your entire life and living in a personal way in your own home, having your home expressed in a personal way.
Yeah, it's such an intimate thing to be designing spaces that people live in. It seems like your firm is suggesting beauty and responsibility aren't opposites. So where does that synthesis show up most clearly in the work? I'm looking at Rahul's website right now. It's tighthouse.com. And this is a new firm. And there's just a few examples of homes here. But maybe you could get into how the efficiency and the design are really harmonized here.
Yeah, well, I don't see sustainability as an add-on. It's not kind of another box to tick when it comes to the design of any new construction or an addition. There's a whole lot of building technology that has been developed it's constantly happening. And, what I was finding in my experience and what I see out on the street, you can see people doing additions, doing new construction, and, I can tell how they're doing it just by looking at it. And sometimes I'm a little bit disappointed in the way that I see things happening. And I really wanted to start shifting the industry, both in architecture and in building, and kind of utilizing the latest and greatest of building materials and methods in order to kind of have a more durable building, because we can't be building the same way that we were building in the 90s. We've come a long way from there, and there's a whole lot of benefits that we can do, that homeowners can have when we're utilizing these things. I mentioned, we were talking about air tightness, and you're going to feel less drafts. You're going to be more comfortable inside your home. There's a way that it's kind of, we look at Instagram and we're like, wow, this Calacatta marble waterfall island looks beautiful, but how does it feel to actually live in this home?
Yeah, right.
Because the way that exterior wall is constructed gives way more of a feeling than how it looks on Instagram. And when you're actually in that space, gives you, I would argue, a sense of real luxury, because a well-constructed home is going to be very quiet on the interior because of higher insulation values, because of higher quality windows. It's going to be less drafty. There's mechanical systems that can deliver constant fresh air through what's called an ERV. And it's kind of, these are the metrics that are kind of unable to display through social media or your portfolio.
Sure.
And I'd really like to kind of realign the evaluation of what is luxury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see there's a couple examples of existing buildings. There's one that's like a Sears Roebuck house that was remodeled. And so when you're working with an existing building, how do you go about evaluating it and determining what needs to change in order? Now, are you able to make these existing buildings into passive homes, or is that, are you just increasing the efficiency of them?
Yeah. So often, as much as people would like to say, oh, we need a powder room on the ground floor, or I'd like an addition that has a larger dining room, those are design desirables, and sometimes constraints due to zoning, or just the available space on the lot, what makes sense for that existing home. And as much as that is a design constraint, budget always comes into play. And so we're always trying to balance the lifestyle with the energy efficiency, and how your energy costs and your interior comfort, your thermal comfort inside your home. And so, no, we're not always going for passive house certification, but often improving the exterior walls of these renovations, so that we're bringing energy costs down, comfort way up. Because one of the ways that we're evaluating that is just simple: hammer to wall, take a probe, see what's in there, see what's going on in there. These are older homes. Some of them don't even have insulation in the walls. So, taking probes, and that's a very dumb way of doing it.
Uh-huh. So what are some of the new, more high-tech ways of doing it?
Yeah. Well, you can take a thermal gun and really evaluate it. Then that's basically it looks like a gun. It's got a screen, and really you want to take that reading when the temperature differential between the interior and exterior is very high. So you really want to do that in when you're cooling the house and it's a hot summer day, or you're heating the house and it's a cold winter day. And that way you can really see, you can visualize the thermal bridging that is happening, which basically means every stud that is going through that wall is essentially a path for energy to transfer through the wall. So energy is always seeking to be at an equilibrium, and it wants to bleed out of the house, because we're always kind of fighting that, especially here in the Northeast, the New York City area. We live in a high temperature differential climate, where our winters are very cold and our summers are very hot. We have to deal with it all. We're wet and rainy. That's kind of another thing that we're always looking to improve, is kind of how that house deals with water, because water is always the enemy of a durable house. Sure. Always trying to keep it out. So in every wall assembly that we have the scope of work that we're able to affect that assembly, using a rain screen, whether it be a rain screen is essentially space for the water to dry out if it does get behind the finish surface of the wall. And so if we can find a place if we can have a place for that water to dry out, it prevents mold, it prevents, which is highly damaging to buildings, and it prevents rot. So that's always another way that we're trying to improve buildings. And often, and especially in these old houses, building science and building technology has really come to America in a very big way, at least in New York City. And I foresee that change just taking off in a big way, and even becoming kind of embedded in code eventually. It's steps. We can't mandate the requirement for better buildings all at once.
Right. Well, let's just talk about what these definitions are. I mean, how would you define a passive house, or what is that? How is that defined?
Right. So quite simply, passive house is a construction method, a design and construction method that reduces energy costs by 60 to 90%. Okay. It uses exterior insulation. It's a highly insulated exterior of the home, and it uses triple glazed windows. It uses mechanical systems that deliver fresh air. Right. It is airtight, and which basically keeps all that energy inside the house. Because a lot of the time, fresh air is kind of delivered through the envelope of the existing building, because it's just leaky, and it's older homes are always built like that. So passive house can really improve overall energy efficiency and interior thermal comfort.
Right. Well, I've got an extremely loose house. I've got rain coming in. It rains in my house, and I have I just had to replace the ceiling. The ceiling had collapsed, and I just had to redo my roof. And actually, the rear facade of my building is actually an interior wall, because I guess maybe at some point in the 20s or something, I think the back of this building burned down. So I don't even really have like a rear facade. So if you look at the rear facade, there's all these doorways and things that it's got wooden lintels. It's just a dead giveaway that it's I guess it's just a piece of the interior. And then the house has been rebuilt a whole bunch of times, and they've tried to turn it into multiple units and things, and it's back to being a single family again. But I mean, I guess I don't even know where I would begin. I love the thought of eventually turning this into a tight house, but I don't even know. It just seems very daunting that you'd have to put in a whole new HVAC system and all kinds of, it just seems like, I don't know, for folks that have existing buildings, it seems a little overwhelming. Although I really do love this idea of, making existing buildings into smart passive homes that, we don't just need to always have new construction in order to have these amenities.
Yeah, and that's a thing that I balance too, is not always going for passive house, but because to me it sounds like there could be a great amount of improvement in your own home just through improvement of this rear wall, and it's not what we always do, and
right.
You can feel the difference even if we don't go for the entire way.
Right. Has there been a project where, let's say, your values kind of outpace what the client could afford or even believe in?
Yeah, often. However, like I said, it's not something that we always have to go for. It's and balancing the wants of a bigger kitchen or a ground floor bedroom with an ensuite bathroom. These are the things that are going to improve your lifestyle, because tight house isn't just about energy efficiency. It's really also about pulling your personal life kind of together so you can live better in your own home. And we've got a project now that's multi-generational, that his mother is moving into the home, and we're kind of making sure it's fully accessible, and we've got grab bars, and we're making sure that the ground floor has a bedroom and a full bathroom, and that is another way of expressing, I guess, tightness, is that like now the family can live all under one roof and always be together in that way.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. I think that's a huge aging in place is a big driver for all kinds of renovations, and I think that's we did that investment for my mom, and I think it's a much better option than having to think of her having to move out and move into a home or something.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like I've worked in senior affordable housing as well, and a lot of the necessity of aging in place and living with dignity and being comfortable in your own space, where that you can get around, even using the bathroom and having grab bars, and that's all highly dictated. It's like an ergonomic thing. Mm-hmm. And having the ability to kind of that experience has informed how I think about space planning and ensuring that everybody from children to elderly can enjoy that space, and thinking about not only how a family lives right in the moment, but how they will live in the future, and designing for that. It's not just about...
Well, what kind of future are you designing for? I mean, when you project yourself into the future of long after you're gone and I'm gone, and how are these homes going to be? What kind of future are you designing for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I could go in a lot of directions with this, but the housing stock that we have now, like Kinstead is a 100-year-old home. The lumber in that home is far denser than the lumber that we're building our homes with these days. And that is a durability that is indicative of that age of home.
Sure.
That are the homes that we're building these days simply don't have that possibility. And maybe that's a product of, and maybe that's how building science has kind of become even more relevant, because if we're to design the housing stock of the future, if someone takes on the great responsibility of designing a ground up home and having a ground up home for themselves, it's a great opportunity, but it's also a great responsibility in designing and owning a home that will serve them right now, but also long into the future. Like having spaces that are not only connecting people, but also to the outside, taking advantage of the site, taking advantage of the site, even in a suburban context, is possible.
Sure. Yeah.
Even in New Jersey, one of the densest states in the United States, people are living 15 feet from each other, but still, New Jersey is also the Garden State. We have beautiful reservations, and this home is on the crest of a hill, and it's got a great view of a local reservation, and kind of looking more outwards like that. I think that that's kind of a design mentality that wasn't really present when the home was developed that long ago, and kind of looking outward a bit more is something that we can take advantage of in these older housing stock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's why Scantaplan is so invested in kind of saving and reimagining existing buildings, because I feel like you can have the best of both worlds. You can have all the materials and craftsmanship, as well as all of the sort of high-tech efficiency and other new kind of living conditions.
The most sustainable building is one that's already in existence, and
exactly.
Taking advantage of the housing stock and developing it, rethinking how we live in it is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I had an interview the other day with someone with a background in human ecology, and we talked about human ecology. Explained it to me, a landscape architect named Scott Bishop, and it just sort of got me thinking that this human ecology is really important for every architect, right? Because as you're projecting yourself into the future, you want to think about how humans are going to be living, right? How are we all going to be living in 100 years, right? I mean, what kind of movements are we going to be making, and interacting with our environment, the environment around us, and how do we, how are these kind of suburban layouts, like the majority of New Jersey, for example, how's that going to change? Definitely, what architecture is so fascinating to me, because it's all about this fixed, rigid structure, and yet it's really about projecting forward into time and backwards into time. It's all about movement, as you were saying earlier. It's about the movement of the water, the air, and in some ways the movement of time. So I think I always find it interesting how architects are thinking about all this. They're building rigid structures, and they're just constantly thinking about movement, about time, and about how I guess the space in between the spaces, the empty space is really, and that's the kind of thing that doesn't show up in Instagram. Right? It's the empty space where the living takes place. And there's definitely, like, I think, a sensitivity there for architects that most of us don't spend a lot of time thinking about, I would say.
Yeah, preempting the future and how a family may be living in a home is, that's kind of a big part of the job. And that kind of, there's almost an emotional stewardship that you have to take on. It's an extremely kind of personal profession, especially in private residential.
Yeah.
Where you're having these conversations about how people like to live and how they will be living in the future.
What is what are some sustainability assumptions that you kind of brought in as a younger architect that you've kind of let go of in the process of working with actual customers, building actual buildings?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go back a little bit. I remember going to a job site once. We were renovating a townhouse in Manhattan, and it was a very cold winter day. The back of we took off the back of the townhouse and extended it a good amount, and it was a very modern steel structure at the back. And I remember the lead architect talking to the client, and there had been some frost that had gotten on the window there, and he had said, "Oh, on days like this, we're going to have to kind of use a space heater." And I was pretty early in my professional career at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just thinking there has to be a way that this can't happen, and that kind of led me to figuring out that passive house really existed. You hear about it in school, but really understanding it after seeing that in real life and understanding that the steel is conducting the cold temperature inside and then condensating in the warm air inside. And that really kind of spurred me to start thinking about that. And it's just kind of like a growth thing as an architect, learning more. And after I got my passive house certification, it's kind of something that once you can't go back. It's hard to let go of understanding what's happening in the building from a thermal and air perspective. And it's really about kind of balancing all of that knowledge, air quality and thermal comfort, and how the HVAC system is performing, and is it serving the rooms properly. But back to your kind of main question, is one of the things that I have been a little bit willing to let go of, especially in the case of renovations, is that the fireplace. I mean, my monkey brain just can't let go of it. Everyone who doesn't like sitting by a cozy fireplace.
Sure.
And that is, and the power goes out, or I mean, it's the holidays, it's Thanksgiving. Who doesn't like sparking up the fireplace and gathering around? And yeah, it's, if you had your air quality monitor next to it, you'd probably be upset. But this is the forgiveness that I'm affording myself, because it's a lovely experience, and I can't let go of it.
Sure, definitely. Well, it's just kind of like, it's just sort of like health and diet. I mean, you can take it to some kind of crazy extreme, and then you just eat miserable food all the time, and that's your choice, you know. But I think everybody has their own extremes of, you know, where they take their living environments. I mean, I think maybe for some people, they might find a certain type of passive home like really stifling and airtight, and there's no air movement, and they feel trapped in there. I don't know. I think it's always got to be a balance, right? Of having like good airflow and you know, more kind of human designed amenities as well.
Completely. I mean, just if I can take one moment and just
Sure.
correct you on one thing, it's just that if it was a true passive house, it would have fresh air constantly flowing due to the mechanical system. So it doesn't feel stifling, and you can open the windows, and it's not like you have to live with all the windows closed or anything like that. That is a common misconception, though. I understand that, like, because tight house, it sounds stifling or anything. It's not that at all. It's really because it's a comprehensive building standard that encompasses, you know, not only the envelope, but, you know, the windows included. And if it's a comfortable day, please.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about, you know, building out your studio, right, and your toolkit and what you're using in your studio, how do you decide when a new tool is earns its place in your workflow? For example, there's so many other tools. You know, my company provides LiDAR scanning. So a lot of architects are now working with point clouds, modeling. Then there's all these new AI tools. There's all kinds of life cycle technology. We've been talking with some architects that are really bringing in a lot of this kind of high-tech facility management type stuff into the residential space. So I'm just curious, you know, what you've been looking at, what you're thinking about trying out maybe, or what you're consciously avoiding.
Yeah, there is a lot of new stuff out there, especially with AI. To me, there's a lot of shiny objects out there, and there is a lot of novelty, but it's and that's exciting to try. But, you know, we're always juggling a lot of things at the same time, and really, it's about making things go faster. It's I have to have a problem that needs less intervention from me in order to warrant the use of it. So, especially when it comes to existing buildings, you know, I used to go out to the field and measure buildings myself, and there's scan to plan, there's that kind of service makes it so much easier for myself, because I don't have to do that. And also, it's I'm tracing around the plan, and I'm 4 inches off. Where did it come out in that circuitous path around that room? And now I know that there's some tolerance issue with what I've already measured, and having the the guarantee of the tolerance being very close to what the actual existing condition is not only saving time, but that's what saves time. That not only saving time in drafting and design, but it saves time when it comes to resolving things on site, and that's
Yeah, I
that's
mean, I always say the real time saver is in the coordination. People think about like they have a certain budget for existing conditions that they, pay their interns $20 an hour to go around with a measuring tape or whatever. And then they think, okay, well, that's my budget. But they don't actually think about the budget that they're pouring into coordination downstream when they've got 6 consultants sitting in a room all getting paid $100 an hour trying to figure out why these drawings are all clashing with each other. So that's the real downstream cost that I find that a lot of people don't really consider. I would imagine that your practice is very data driven. What we always say is, the path to budget and schedule certainty is through good data, right? So you got to have that good data.
That's right. And that's the kind of thing passive house can be explained through data very clearly.
Yeah.
However, I find that explaining the experience of it is kind of the real meat and potatoes of why.
Sure.
Telling someone that there's 0.5 air changes per hour, what does that mean?
Right.
That's a very good airtight house, but what does it mean to someone who's unfamiliar with the data? Telling someone that it can be minus 20 and your power could go out and you're going to remain comfortable through the night. Don't worry, just don't as long as your doors and windows are closed, you're going to weather that storm as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
And same in the summer.
Sure. It's seems like I mean, I would say, especially in a densely populated area like New Jersey, it just kind of feels as if sometimes like design is, there are so many constraints around zoning and regulations and things that design becomes like almost like fully dictated by this regulatory environment. And I think you mentioned earlier about like potential more like I know, for example, Scandaplan gets a lot of work out of the regulations that are in place in New York City and other places around efficiency for commercial buildings, right? So they need to have, every 10 years, they need to do an energy audit, and they need to, evaluate all their HVAC systems and everything. So do you see that kind of thing happening in residential?
Well, I do think that for new construction, there is blow-a-door test requirements that you have to blow a certain amount, and in order to verify air tightness of a building, and we're always striving for well under that. And like I said earlier, that all is going. I foresee that as codes become more concerned with energy usage in the effort to fight climate change and overall use of resources, codes will become more stringent, and tight house will already be there. We've been doing this already for years, and therein we're ahead of the game.
Right. So what if a certain like type of let's say carbon literacy was mandated in home listings? Like, for example, when I bought my home, aside from the inspector who looked at it, there was absolutely no information whatsoever about the efficiency of the building. You feel like that's kind of information that should be widely available, just like the square footage or other metrics that are evaluated in homes?
I think that carbon usage should be kind of part of the early design process, and not necessarily in the same way that I think that Zillow has something called the walkability score for different properties, and that has to do with what your neighborhood is like, and can you get to a grocery store or a coffee shop. And I think that while carbon is super important, and the amount of carbon that goes into the construction of any especially new construction building is something that should be considered, I think it's a bit too nebulous and kind of esoteric for the typical home buyer to understand the relevance of. And it's also, if it's already there, what are they going to do about it? They can't do anything about that. And arguably changing it and tearing it out and putting in a healthier material is not something that that's not feasible and would require a specialist to do. And I would argue that I like that idea, though, of including more metrics in the home listing on Zillow, and I think that could be manifested by the amount of energy used. Like, how efficient is this building?
No, I mean, I would love to just have some kind of basic metric, like how tight is the house, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's after people buy a home, that's actually what they wind up struggling, just like I am. Like I bought a house that was extremely loose, and I'm just, piecemeal, one little piece at a time, trying to tighten it up.
Yeah, because it's you have this understanding of what your investment into the property is, and then now you own it, and now it's wintertime, and you bought it in the fall when the weather was temperate and maybe the HVAC system wasn't even on. And you were super comfortable, and this is a beautiful place, and now you're recognizing this is so drafty and uncomfortable. Including that kind of information in a listing would be massively beneficial to the homeowner, but would require a literacy of related to energy that the realtor or some sort of regulatory outfit would have to go through every new listing, determine it, and then start establishing a database to have that included. Great idea.
Well, I mean, I'm not anywhere close to the high net worth of most of the homes that we wind up scanning, but you're inspiring me to actually take a more data driven approach to my house, and you get one of those thermal guns and start walking around and seeing where all the leakage really is. So when a client hires Tight House, I mean, what unspoken promise are they buying? Even if they don't say it out loud.
Yeah. A couple things I'd say, stewardship. I'm a partner. I'm not. I want to help. I really want to kind of perform not only as your designer and helping you live a lifestyle that you want to live, but as an advocate for you to kind of pull you in a direction that maybe you didn't see or fully understand what was possible, and but also balancing that with, you know, the constraint of your investment in that property. And kind of, I see myself, and I think that a lot of my clients see me as a fiduciary, and kind of being responsible with what resources they have, and using that financial resource in the best ways possible to deliver something that you know, they can afford, and that they love.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you said before that, you know, the most sustainable home is an existing home. And I would argue on top of that, that really the most sustainable thing any one of us can do as regular citizens is to, you know, as far as steps we can take, it would be actually, you know, preserving existing buildings, renovating, retrofitting, and bringing and restoring and bringing back existing buildings and giving them a longer life cycle, right? Because as you were saying earlier about, you know, the quality of the materials, the embodied energy that lives in those buildings, that is, you know, for our audience that may not be aware of this, you know, something like 30 to 40% of all the waste, all the emissions, all the greenhouse gases on the planet are all coming from this, you know, architecture, engineering, and construction industry, which is why, you know, it seems like architects are all so obsessed with the environment. It's because they're aware of this. So, you know, I mean, I would just say, you know, sure, you know, get an electric car, you know, recycle your plastic, etc. But, you know, if you really want to help as just a regular person going through living your life, probably the best thing you can do is, you know, try to, help one of these buildings have a longer life cycle.
It's beautiful. You know, New Jersey has a beautiful housing stock. We have such cool old homes here, and you know, I want to honor the past, but also, come on, let's bring it into 2025 and beyond. We can have a new lifestyle and in these older homes, and we don't have to live with these small kitchens anymore. We can connect to the backyard. We can you know, entertain. We live in a completely different way, especially after COVID. Everyone needs a home office. We're working from home, and there's great, as everyone says, there's great bones to these homes.
Yeah.
And there's so much that we can do with what we already have.
Yeah, and I love like the example on your website of renovating a Sears Roebuck model home, of which there's probably, you know, tens of thousands in New Jersey alone. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're just because it looks like a cookie cutter house from the outside, it doesn't necessarily have to feel that way on the inside.
Yeah, you know, well, there's nothing better than walking down and a historic street where, you know, these huge oak trees and tree-lined street, very historic looking. It's being transported through time, and then you can enter it, and we're paying respect to what once was. And then once you're inside, this is a personal space. I think that you should be afforded to live in your own way, in a modern way that honors the past, and we're going to bring you into the future too.
Yeah. Well, Rahul, so anyway, Tight House is really a new firm. Congrats on, you know, setting off on your own path here. And, you know, it's always a big leap to become an entrepreneur like this. And so my hat's off to you.
Thank you.
And, you know, as you're looking forward into, the next 5-10 years of your firm, what is practicing forward for you? What does that mean for you right now with Tight House?
Yeah, practicing forward is helping more homeowners bring their homes into the future and into today, and as much of an advocate of being an advocate for sustainability and being responsible with the great opportunities that are construction and new homes and renovating homes.
Yeah, well, it just feels like there is a kind of level of idealism and abstraction and so much sustainability maybe coming out of more like academic circles or whatever. And then there is, the hard reality that, I think 90% of buildings in America are not even built, have no architects involved.
Yeah.
They're just like a pure construction play. And I don't, with those places, I don't think most people are thinking really all that deeply about a lot of these topics we've been talking about today. And so I just think that as we, go forward, it's great to have this kind of sensitivity brought back to our existing inventory of housing stock. Well, Rahul, thank you so much for joining us. I wish you all the luck in the world with your practice. I think I can see this becoming something that a lot of people would be interested in. I'd be very interested in this. Just even just, having you over and talking to you about my house for a couple hours, I think would be really valuable.
Let's do it.
I don't know if I could afford to turn it into a tight house overnight, but I think, there's, I live in Troy, New York. There's a lot of like really incredible historic building stock, and a lot of things are falling apart and crumbling because, nobody really, the value of the buildings, the cost of construction now is so high that it's like, it's almost prohibitive to try to even keep these buildings around. So, we're always trying to find, these compromises between, I guess what I was saying earlier, like the completely market driven construction that's going on that has absolutely no consideration at all for sustainability. And then these crazy highfalutin futuristic ideas that are coming from very advanced firms and academics and things like that. You got to meet somewhere in the middle where people can actually take advantage of this stuff. And it seems like you're really helping people navigate that.
And that's exactly right. I see the people that I work with as collaborators. It's not really like I'm doing this service for you, and I'm this savant who can let me go do my work. It's like, if you're not a part of this, it's not going to be good.
Of course. Yeah. So I mean, it's deeply collaborative, and it seems like residential is probably in some ways the most deeply collaborative of all the different forms of architecture, because it's so intimate, and you have to get inside the psyche of these people in some ways. So, well, thank you so much, Rahul. And check out Tight House, Rahul's new firm. It's tighthouse.com. And looking forward to catching up with you soon, Rahul. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Owen.
Very good. Okay, as always, Practice Forward podcast. We're sponsored by Scantaplan, scantaplan.io, and we'll look forward to catching you on the next one. Cheers, Rahul. Have a good day.
Take care.
Be well.